if you want your congregation to make its mark and have a lot of people, find another rabbi. As I was listening to his message, it's funny because I've listened to it maybe twice this week, and I'm listening to it again now, and it's almost as if I'm listening for the first time. It's amazing how many things his whole the thread throughout the message, the whole he just said it all. And I think it's so important to just listen to it without distraction, which is what I'm able to do on Shabbat. I start listening it from the week before, but there's always many distractions. So I lose the thread of what he's saying. But, he talks about it not being um how could he's talking about how it's a continuation of themes. It's teaching us the message is through the themes that he's giving us. and and that and it's all pictures. He's telling us, he's giving us order that brings us out of chaos. He's telling us that if we follow the ways of the world, which is what he called contra natura, which goes against the nature of what he created, then we go from things that are like he says, a dog is not a cat. If you're, in other words, if you're a boy, you're not a girl. Today we're looking at, we believe that things that were wrong 30 years ago are now right, and what's right 30 years ago is now wrong. So, and one of the things that struck me also was he said that all religions want us to be dependent upon them. They're going to give us their principles, their rules and regulations, and we just simply have to follow, and we have to convert others to bring them to those rules and regulations. And so that's how the community grows, and we become a huge amount of people. And that is that's natural in me. Whenever I learned something new, the first thing I wanted to do was to tell everybody and have them come and believe the way I did. And he's saying, no, it's not. We're not to be dependent on God. The whole idea of coming into the land was that no longer would he give us the manna, no longer would he provide everything for us. We had to become dependent on ourselves, knowing that he would always be with us. And that is so hard because it's so natural to think that, oh no, everything has to come from God. If it's not all from God, and that's very natural in me. And like I really heard that today. So, we have to look the principles that he's giving us. It began with the centrality of all things, with the center of the community was the Ochel Moed, the tent of meeting. Then inside the Ochel Moed was the Ark of the Covenant. Inside that Ark would be the tablets, and written on the tablets in stone, and where the stone tablets were written, his commandments. That's the only thing that we need to look at applying to our lives. And the rest is up to us. How are we going to behave? How are we going to make decisions? And that is so difficult because honestly, there's times that I don't want to take responsibility for anything. I just want someone to tell me what to do. But then we get upset when someone tells us what to do if we don't like what they're telling us. So it's there's a simple thread that goes through the message, and I think that we need to listen to that message over and over again. It's a marvelous message. And if we just radiate that light, others will see it and others will ask us instead of enforcing, pushing our ideas on others. Just allow the light to shine in us. It's really a simple message. It's beautiful.
Before I forget, I want to just reply to what you're saying about um, Um, obviously, God doesn't make us robots and we have things to do and choices to make. But my problem, unless I'm misunderstanding you, is that I think I have to do everything. And the truth is, I think we have to distinguish between, and I know what Rabbi's saying.
Yeah,
I remember in a certain, when I was in, anyway, it doesn't matter what religion, but when people would lose a pen or something and just sit and say, let's pray to find your pen. Well, go just stand up and go look for it. But
right,
that to me is obviously leaning too much on a false understanding. But the opposite, which I have a problem with, is I think everything's on me. And we need to distinguish, for example, certain, let's say, issues we have or certain experiences we have that we can't let go of, or certain characteristics, let's say temper, all that stuff. We there's a point we can do many things to try and stop that. We can try and stop our behavior, but if things persist, maybe we're doing something wrong in the sense that things that we cannot do, we have to go to God. Now, that is called dependent, but that's not a dependency. God is here. People who don't have God or don't acknowledge that they have God in their lives don't do that, and they're doing wrong in the opposite way. There are things which we have to go to God for, and are things which are our responsibility. So I think that's really important to make a distinction because I don't know how certain subjects that are so big philosophically, whatever, it's hard to put into words that people will receive them in the way, for example, the rabbi meant or you meant. I think we have to be careful to, well, we have to try and understand the nuances of it. It doesn't mean we're not dependent on God to do things that we cannot do ourselves, are not in our power to do, because then we could become leaning too much on in the other way. Anyway, I just wanted to, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
no, I'm a little confused, but I kind of understand because I look at how I was just before I got sick about a month ago. And it was like I had taken too much on me and was not giving others the opportunity, the joy of giving and doing. Like, because I'm such a doer that I think I could do it all. And that God has given me the strength to do it all. But that's not what community is about. Community is about allowing others to do and to help us to, like he said, we are given a part of the role. We have given a function within a community, and our function is to serve others. But we have to allow each one to fulfill their function instead of doing it for them. Is that what you mean?
I think maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. Maybe I'm talking about something else, and that's not really what the rabbi or you are talking about. But when you say, um, there are people who walk with God, they have the idea that of too much dependence on God. God will do this, God will do
Right.
that. But to me, that's an extreme I don't see that as often. Like I've known, I was in the church at one point, and we always knew they called it a different thing. Real believers knew that they had to do. You're not a real believer. So are we now losing the distinction between a real believer and a not? People who have God in their lives, when they go and bring food to the poor and this and that, they, of course, to me, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I
Well,
think it's about,
there are certain religions that do that. That's very big in Islam. He wasn't, I don't think he was only talking about Christian churches. I think there are many religions that do teach that everything is just. I remember thinking it myself. I don't know if I told you, but when I lived in Vancouver, there was we rented a house and there was a piece of a land in the back that the people there before had planted a garden. I had no idea how to plant a garden, and my mind wasn't there in those days. And I took a bunch of seeds and I threw them on the earth, and I said, "Okay, guys, you're on your own." Honestly, but that's what God is saying.
did anything happen?
Nothing.
No, no, I think, okay, that I totally agree with. But I guess what I was taking from that, and if I'm taking that, I don't know if other people are, maybe, maybe. I understand. Maybe I'm taking it too far, and that's not what he meant. Because having God in your life, it's not dependency, but there are things I cannot do that maybe I try to do and I cannot do things. Certain issues, let's say, whatever. I'll give an example. Maybe it doesn't apply to me necessarily, but just a general, for example, people who, well, let's say wrestle very big time with jealousy or things like that. And they try to change. Oh, I cannot feel that. I cannot. It's such a terrible thing. And it's useless when you cannot. There are things you can do, and if you've done the things you could do, then you have to say, God, help me with this. Now, as long,
But he said that. I don't know if you
maybe
might
I
have
didn't
missed
wear.
it. Maybe you missed it, and I suggest you listen again because he did say, knowing that God is with you.
Okay, maybe, okay, yes. Okay, but the God is with you. Maybe I'm interpreting. We should understand when. Anyway, maybe it's just a language thing.
Yeah, God will do, but that's the whole Torah teaches us that he didn't say to Moses, I'm going to take you across, the Sea of Reeds on a magic carpet. He parted the sea, but we had to push the wagons.
No,
We
no,
have to
right. I
do our
guess
part.
I think it's a language thing that I'm misunderstanding because to me that of course that's true, but I guess the dependency sounded like it was saying that anyway, I
There's a
understand.
difference between, and I remember he used to say this, there's a difference between total dependence on God and interdependence.
Yeah, well that's I guess what I want to
Because,
say.
yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
it's
a
a
bigger
holistic
picture.
thing.
It's a bigger picture. He created a community. He's forming an order in the community. And so everybody would be interdependent, would work together to do the things that God wanted us. We know he doesn't have to fully say it because we're already on the fourth book. So what you're saying, he's already spoken about. Remember, it's a
Yeah.
process. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I guess, yeah, just not, we're all struggling, I guess, different levels, whatever, to have a balance in our lives. And the
yeah,
balance is, is, is things that you cannot do or working on. But God does help us in certain areas that we cannot go any further in our
of
own
course.
self. So I guess that's what I'm saying that
Yeah, but of
maybe
course
it's the words that I'm having a little issue with. And I understand what it means, the dependence on God and things that are obvious that we need to do. You needed to plant the seeds in a proper way, but maybe
but remember that's why he's referring to this parasha, to the order, what he's doing. He's forming an army. He's creating the formation of the people. So that's what he's but there are
yeah, no, I understand.
other messages that he's given us addressing exactly what you said.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
other thing I just was, it's like when when God chose the Jewish nation to be a light to the nations, to the Gentiles, and what's sad about what like and that's true, and what it was we were to show the light of God, the truth about God to all the nations, and I think now what the problem is that people misunderstand that and they get jealous because who do you think you are? But when a person is really humble, I'm just trying to make an analogy. When a person is humble, they're given something and they're really humble and their goodness just comes out of them. I've seen people like that. People don't become jealous of that, they're changed by it. Now, we've lost as a nation, I'm not saying everybody, but as a corporate nation, Israel has partly lost that humility. So you don't see the light of God. I mean, I'm not saying this sounds so terrible. I love Israel and I love, no, there's so many people in Israel who love God, but you're not seeing the nation of Israel bringing light to the world right now. There's all sorts of practices there that are terrible, fractious arguing, jealousies, transgender rights, and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm saying is, when you really show light in the world, people are not angry at you necessarily. They see you're not showing pride, you're showing God to other people. Unfortunately, you don't see that so much right now.
Yes and no, because there's a woman who's a caregiver where I go and I sing, and she really sh shows the love of God.
No, but I said
And there are
individuals do.
yeah, okay, I didn't hear that because there are
Yeah, no, I
people who
distressed
are
that.
jealous of
No,
her
no,
and
I
who
said,
don't like her at all.
oh, okay, yeah,
Not
because God,
everybody,
because yeah, they're
not,
fighting God, not the
yeah,
other people.
exactly. So
But I'm
what you
just
said,
saying, a lot of people who talk about um, Israel being chosen, whatever, uh, can't forget that what are we chosen for, and not that we're better. And don't be proud. There's just so much of this. I'm proud to be Jewish. I'm proud to do this, and it's not about being proud of being Jewish. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
Although I don't want to plaster the whole thing with one
No,
stroke.
because you have to see both sides.
No, no, there are people who love God and who are showing God's light to the world. There's no
And
doubt.
yeah, and Israel still does that. Right now, we're entrenched in a war, but whenever there was an earthquake or a tragedy somewhere, Israel was the first one there on
Oh
the
yeah, I
scene.
get that. That's
There's
I
both
don't mean to.
sides.
No, no, of course, no. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I guess a lot of people when they say, "Who do you think you are?" That
Yeah,
we have to explain the truth that
yeah,
it's God that's for everybody. It's for that.
right.
That's what our mandate was.
Yeah, it's a double-sided coin, and that's the balance that we need to walk, and it's not an easy one.
No.
Israel, as he said, Israel being chosen has nothing to do with value. They were chosen for a purpose, and we have lost our role today. We have lost our purpose. That's why what I liked when he said at the beginning that these are a continuation of themes, because this theme has continued in Israel from the very beginning. What we're seeing now has happened many times in history before.
Right. And
So,
what the Haftorah portion is beautiful because
yeah,
God said, it's, things are going to be return to beauty and the love of God. Also, the nations are going to come up to Israel,
yeah,
and that's going to be when it's all the healing is it's so
that's it.
beautiful.
It is.
And
And
we see samples of, I mean, I see people like Dennis Prager, who's a real light to the world. So I'm saying there's
yeah,
so many wonderful lights coming from the Jewish community. I didn't mean to paint it all with one stroke,
no,
not at all.
no, I know. It's we have both, and I'm one of the first ones to do that. I get very upset at us because we're not living the way we need to, and we are called to a higher standard. We Israel are called to a higher standard, not because we chose it, but we did say that all that you say we will do. And God remembers those words from us. So when we say all that you say we would do, we have to do. We have to do what we say. And I'm the first one, all my life I've said things and I haven't carried through. But I've suffered the consequences for them. But yeah, it's marvelous to think of this thing that it talks about in Zechariah. And I just spoke about it yesterday when I went to do a couple of Shabbat services, where one day every nation will send ambassadors to Israel to worship God on Sukkot. And one of the things it was read with the Haftorah portion, that God says, I hate your new moons. I hate your Sabbaths. I hate your Moedim. In other words, the way we have changed the seven festivals that God gave us. He gave them for a reason, but humans have changed them. We have added and added and added all these rules and regulations to them. Like there is so much going on that is horrendous in the world of like kashrut right now. Right here, even in Montreal. Do you know the restaurant Benny's? They're
Yeah.
they're having a fight with the Orthodox community because they're not kosher enough.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Benny's on.
I just read about it. And imagine God never gave us those rules of kashrut. The word kosher doesn't even exist in the
You mean
Torah.
the Orthodox are fighting Benny's or Benny's is fighting?
And the Orthodox are imposing more regulations than even their own or other Orthodox Jews.
Okay.
It's never good enough. It's never, there's always more rules, and it's all about control. The church does it, Islam does it, every religion does it. And I think that's what Rabbi was talking about. It wasn't only one religion, because we impose man's ways, even if it's atheism, even if it's all this IGP, UCAR, quick, yeah, blah, 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 all these different letters, you know, they all are imposing their ways upon humanity, which go contra
Yeah,
natura,
totally.
contra what God is saying.
Even as far as going into the grammatical world of pronouns, even that's being imposed.
Exactly. Well, and they're fighting amongst them each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to really get back to the real basics. And that's what the Torah teaches. And he said the Torah is so honest. Yes, Richard.
No, finish your thought.
The Torah is so honest. It's not trying to tell us how perfect we are, because he knows we're not perfect. The only perfect one is God, and we are going to struggle, but in our struggles, he's with us. What would you like to say, Richard?
Yeah, well, I've got several things to say, but let me just start with a thing about jealousy, right? I heard that word today. Um, other people think that we're supposed to be provoked to be jealous of them. Okay, I'm sure you know about Romans 9 through 11. Um,
Yes,
I'll just say that. I mean, it's written by a guy that you call Rabbi Shear.
Shaul.
Um,
Yes.
I call him problematic Paul, but you know, but um, okay, I'll just say that. And about dependence and independence. Okay, I'm a 12 stepper. Okay, and 12-step programs have a firm understanding of healthy dependence.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and if
Health,
you want to
but the
know what I'm talking,
healthy is a good word there. It's healthy dependence. Yes.
okay, but that healthy dependence leads to a healthy, what looks like independence.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to explain um, if you want to go online and read chapter 3 of the 12 steps and
Actually,
12.
I'm looking right now for Romans 9 because I'd like to look at what that said there.
Okay,
Where is it?
okay. And the other thing about not being kosher enough, some people like a lot of rules. Okay, I know people who just love rules and love to be really picky about rules.
Okay.
It's not just in religion; it's also in business and accounting and taxation and real estate and stuff like that. Okay, some people are more principle oriented and some are rules oriented. I so I don't put down the people who are into the rules. I have a problem with some of them on an interpersonal level, but so it goes.
But
Let
Richard, there's a
Yeah.
difference between having in your own life and the way you organize your own life. I'm also pretty meticulous about certain things, not a lot of things I'm not, and I have my ways of doing things, but it's different. I won't go over to Peggy's house and insist she do things that way. So with the kosher laws, for example, I don't have a problem if it helps a person to get closer to God or whatever, to say, this is the way I keep my version, let's say, of kosher. If it doesn't detract from, if it detracts from their walk with God, if they don't do that, I have no problem with it. But to go into a restaurant that's kosher and keeps the kosher laws and then say, but you're not doing this right, and to get into an argument, I think that's crossing the line. Like, who is there an absolute kosher rule? It's like they're saying that God only gave their kosher laws and that's the way it's to be expressed. That's why we have to go back to the Torah and see exactly what it says.
And
May I speak? May I speak?
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay, well, someone has a right to go into a restaurant and say it's not kosher enough for me and then walk out.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Right.
I have a story. Okay, I was in Montreal in 2003. I'm on the way back on Air Canada. The plane was delayed. And an announcement came over on the speaker that said, I'm sorry, but our plane is delayed because some of our passengers insist upon kosher food or something like that. Now, I think that was funny and problematic, but if it were me, I would have prearranged the kosherness of the food or something ahead of time.
Exactly.
That's just me. And there's been violations of kosher here where I live. There were some scandals where the kosher butcher didn't really sell kosher meat, something like that. It was caught, and that happens all over the place. I'm not putting it down, but some people really like rules. Okay, and that's okay to me. I don't always get along with them, and they don't always get along with me. And so now I will mute myself.
But you see, if you have a basis of truth which is given to us in the Torah, then you can justify. Like there's we went out to a restaurant and one of my friends is kosher. So she ordered just a salad, but she didn't say to everybody else, I'm not eating with you unless you eat kosher too. It's when we impose things that go outside what God is telling us. This is what our community is teaching. There's nothing, a rabbi would always say, there's nothing wrong if you want to do something that's a tradition, as long as you're not imposing it on everyone and making it as something that comes from God, because it isn't. Of course, we need rules. God is a God of order. There's order everywhere in the universe. We see that. Otherwise, one day the sun isn't in the mood to come up, so it doesn't come up. It's there have to be rules. We're not saying that, Richard. What we're saying is that you can't impose. If someone wants to be a homosexual and they want to do that on their own and nobody knows about it, they have to face God themselves. It's up to them. God says, do not do this if they want to do it. But once you start to impose it, bring it into the schools and start teaching it to your 5-year-old in a kindergarten classroom, that's where it becomes wrong. Because what they're saying is, what I believe is right is what goes. Because you open up Pandora's box and there's no stopping it. This is what we're experiencing today. There is so much chaos in the world, so much rebellion, so much anti-God, contra natura, that we're really, really in trouble. And Israel who is called to a higher standard, needs to start unifying and choosing to do what God says, which basically are the Ten Commandments, period. All the rest of the books teach us what happens to us when we do, what happens to us when we don't. It's not complicated. We tend to overcomplicate our lives. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that, Richard, but
As always,
Yeah. Okay, quickly. I am very understanding of, quote, other people's, unquote, religion. I've studied a certain type of scholarship that analyze how sacredness shows up to people. I don't agree with the certain Orthodox Jews who think that the oral tradition came from Moses. Okay, however, they believe that. Okay, and it's functional for them, and they know. Okay, and these people I'm talking about, they know deep down that there are very few places in the world where they can get local people to pass laws to agree with them. I mean, they know that. I mean, sometimes there's a thing with erecting an eruv in a city, but those people, the Orthodox Jews, they like it that way. And so what? I mean,
well, what is when they begin to impose it upon others, where this restaurant isn't kosher enough and they could cause them to close. There are restaurants in Jerusalem who have been closed because they've imposed so many laws that the people couldn't afford to keep their restaurants open. And that goes against God and against Torah. That's what we're saying, Richard. Look, if you have a few families who move in across the street from you, and they all believe in Sharia law, and they believe that everybody on your street
and
then
that's what's happening.
has to believe it, and that everybody slowly in the whole community has to believe it, and then the city has to believe it. This is what's happening. It's not only Orthodox Judaism. We're talking about religion that has been imposed by human beings as replacing what God is saying. If you don't believe what God is saying, anything goes. And that's what we're saying here. Let's take a look what God is saying. Right, Miriam?
Yeah, totally.
Good.
About balance.
It's all
And
about
even
balance.
I misunderstood maybe. Anyway, I understand fully what Rabbi is saying. And
Yeah.
basically, he is saying it's about balance.
It's about balance. And the world needs to come. Right now, we have the pendulum on one side where it's ultra, ultra, ultra religious, growing and growing around the world in of all types, even religious atheists, even religious politician parties, political parties who have gone far right. And then you have the far left where you have anything goes. So you have both. And we have to the pendulum slowly has to come into balance. Where we are on the world scheme, God's scheme of things, because it has been like a spiral that's gone down, 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 and then it comes back into balance for a while, or we have peace in the world. And now we're in war. Spiritual war, physical war, emotional war, every type of war. We are at war right now. And so we have to learn how to bring balance into our own lives and spread that. And the only one who holds balance is the Creator. He gives us balance. So I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we look forward to
Shabbat
next week.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Isabel. Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom,
Shalom,
Baruch.
everyone.
Bye,
Okay,
everyone.
bye-bye. Bye-bye. Good
Bye.
night, bye-bye.